Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. And I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for being here with us as we are getting into our Is it Monday? I think it's Monday night episode, right? Wow. Yep, Monday night episode. I had to actually look at the days, and I should know this because I've known throughout the day what day it is, but I guess I lost track of it. So anyway, it's our Monday evening episode. So I hope you all are having a wonderful day wherever you are, whatever your circumstances are. I hope you all are holding it all together. The phones will always be open here on the show, so if you want to call in with something paranormal of your very own, please feel free. I love hearing from you guys, so the number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun here on the Paranormal Portal. If you want to relay a story or something, don't want to be on the air, you can always email it in to me. You can email it by emailing paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and you can certainly send it in to me, and I'll read it for you if you want, but always my preference is to hear from you guys in person. But if that's not your thing, if that kind of freaks you out, then certainly that's a great plan B. So again, this is our shorter format show. It's about an hour long, and we get into ghost stories tonight, ghost encounters. So I hope you love some ghosts because you come to the right place. I don't know about you, but I hope you're ready because it's time for bed. Boom. There we are. We're back. We're back and back at it. So, yeah, it's been a good day. Had a lot of things going on today. Special happy birthday to the Mrs. Portal. It's her birthday today, so it means it's extra busy here in the Portal House. Not that we were able to go and do anything extra fun or exciting or anything. We were just home, but, we had cake and stuff, so I guess, we're doing it as right as we can given the circumstances. But, yeah, been a busy day. Lots of things going on, lots of things I'm trying to get done. And sometimes I'm actually succeeding. So that's always good. But let's get at it. I've got some stories opened up for you. I hope you'll enjoy them. I think they're always good. I love ghost stories. I like a good ghost story. So to me, this is, it's a great phenomenon, even though it's really overdone in a lot of ways. We hear a lot of ghost stuff, but I still think that, ghosts are fascinating, exciting. And the funny thing is that a lot of the phenomena we hear about in ghosts encounters is repeated among UFO encounters, is repeated among cryptid and Bigfoot encounters. And so there's really a lot of bleed through between the types of phenomena. And I don't know if that's because most of these phenomena are rooted in multidimensional experiences or something, or if there's some other reason for the commonality that I just haven't gotten my head around yet. I don't know. Just some ideas, but I think it's pretty fascinating. And the fact that so many of these phenomena share traits. They share some of the activities are replicated across the different types of activities there are between cryptids, UFOs, ghosts, etc., etc. So I find that fascinating myself, and I think that there's more than just a passing. I mean, it's more than just a circumstance, is what I'm trying to say. I think it's very profound and may indicate a shared nature between these phenomena. So anyway, it's all connected. Yeah, there's Shadow Time Rider. That's a new name. Good to see you. Yes, they are. Or he or she, I don't know. They are all connected. It's all connected. I think it is. I think that's fascinating to me, and it certainly makes the approach a little different to some degree, because, of course, with hauntings and stuff, a lot of times we fall back to religion. But oddly enough, you hear of times that people have been dealing with what they believe to be alien or extraterrestrial presence, and they will fall back to religion as well. And it somehow seems to work in causing these things to stop. I've not heard of that in the case of, I can't recall any, at least in the case of Bigfoot or cryptids. As far as Bigfoot and Dogman and such, but there are those that say that there is a demonic element to those. Who knows? There's a Nephilim element to those. Who knows? I mean, we just don't know, but there is some curiosity there with the fact that there's so much significantly tied together in between all of those. So it's very curious, very cool. But I think those are the breadcrumbs, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the clues. Those are the clues, Scooby-Doo. I'm opening up some stories here, so let's get started. The first one tonight is coming from Massachusetts. And it has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches, which is a lot of different phenomena. It's a very short story, though. So it says, this story takes place when I was young, in the early 90s. I really don't know how long this happened for, because I experienced this more than once. I'd be lying in my bed looking at the ceiling, and suddenly I'll see a face. It wouldn't just be a two-dimensional shape of a face. It would actually stick out a couple of inches to about the ears, and it was always the same material of the ceiling, which is obviously plaster, although the eyes did look like regular organic eyes. It would stare at me with big, wide eyes and talk, but I could never hear what it was saying. At one point during these experiences, I had had too much of it and went to my sister's room and slept on her floor. And after sleeping for some time, I woke up, and there it was again. Well, I woke my sister up and asked her if she saw it, and she did. Now the both of us were freaked out because we went to our parents' room and slept in their bed with them, with the face staring at us all night with wide eyes, silently mouthing out something that we just couldn't hear. I don't remember if we asked our parents if they saw it too, but now that I think about it, I think I taught myself to not look at the ceiling at night, and do not to this day. The strange thing is that I'm almost completely sure that our house is not haunted. And that's the only experiences we had. My parents built our house, so we know nobody died in it, and there has been no house built on this land previously. To this day, I don't know what this was. Again, common misconception, you don't need an old house to have a haunting. You don't need to have a prior death or a prior horrible situation in order to have a haunted house. It certainly can be one of the reasons you would have a haunted house, but it's not that your house can never get haunted. There can be an item you bring into the house that has an attachment. There can be somebody messing around with things they don't understand and open portals. And there can be just sometimes, I believe, wayward spirits just happen through. You may bring an attachment with you when you're out and about. You just don't know. So that sense of security, like this is where it's a brand new house. There's no way it's haunted. That's not the case. That's just not the case. Now, again, those can be reasons that they're haunted, but it's not exclusively those reasons. There's any number of other reasons that you can have a haunting. So don't think the age of a house is somehow going to make it okay. But cool story. I don't know what this face was. What was the mouthing for? Was it, I don't know. That's very bizarre. Just a face, three-dimensionally protruding from the ceiling, mouthing words that the person couldn't make out. Now, I will say that in a lot of cases, when people do hear talking, spiritual talking, ghost talking, or whatever, they hear words, they know that they're words, but they don't know what it's saying. It's like it's in a different language or indecipherable for some reason. And I would imagine that if that mouth were shaping those very same words and sounds that some psychic people hear or hear psychically, then maybe it wouldn't matter anyway what you were seeing because you wouldn't understand the language anyway. I don't know. A language is it's an understanding of how to make vibrations physically with our mouth and our voices in order to convey meaning, but perhaps that changes as we transition, and suddenly those mechanics aren't quite the same. Or maybe it's a whole unique language on the other side. Who knows? Hard to say, hard to know, but that would be creepy to look up and see a face. You don't know if it's chanting something, if it's, I don't like you much, you really suck. You don't know what it's saying. So that would be creepy. That would be very creepy. This next one's coming from Illinois. It's a little longer. It has to do with several different phenomena as well. It says, I've been trying to astral project, so far have succeeded twice. But this time, I was interrupted by some type of animal's noise, and it really ruined my focus. It was 2:30 p.m., just the Thursday before Christmas break, and I decided to try to project again. I lay down, focused my mind, and cleared it to only hear the sounds of breathing in my head. Sometimes I also stare at a glowing object, a lava lamp, or something you stare at that keeps your mind's attention. I use objects sometimes to focus my mind and keep it awake, so only my body falls asleep while I'm fully aware. It took about 20 minutes or so for my body to begin to tire, but I dozed off by mistake. I woke up wanting to know the time, but I noticed I couldn't move my body or eyes, but I was aware, so I began to refocus on leaving my body, and I thought I was just hearing things, but I heard a voice of a man, but it was faint. Where will you be headed? I was trying to block him out because the voices lose your focus, and I suggest now not heading that way, whatever you do. I suggest not heading that way, whatever you do. Those areas are full of things based off of fire. Well, I was confused on what he meant by based off fire, but I couldn't lose focus. At this point of astral projections, you will start to see different colors, meaning you're ready to project. I was hearing the voices again, another sign, but the voice was getting louder. I warned you, so shouldn't go that way, okay? It's not safe. Okay, I won't go that way if I fully make it out of my body, okay? I replied in my mind. Saying this made the voice go away, but now I'm hearing a new sound, the sound of growling. It's not an everyday dog growl. It sounded incredibly big on the back of my head, and I feel it breathing hard, and it was really hot. It continues to growl until it sounds like it's right next to my ear, breathing in it. It started to breathe and growl louder and louder to the point I felt it behind me. And I was sleeping to my right, and I felt something behind me from my left, a heated feeling, and it growled one more time, but this time it was so loud it woke me, and I was beginning to sweat from extreme heat from the thing behind me. It was so cooled at first until the sounds got closer it got hotter. Well, it was 3:30 p.m. when I was fully awake, and at around 3:55 when I got out of the shower. The sound was just loud enough to break my focus and woke me all the way up, and I didn't get afraid. I was interested on what made that sound. I kept wondering if I find out what woke me up because I was curious of what it was. Something that big enough to grab my attention must want me for some reason. I also want to know what the man meant by based of fire. He leaves me babbled on the place he spoke of. He leaves me babbled? I'm not familiar with that term, but maybe the thing that woke me up came from the place the voice spoke about. Yeah, especially since she got hotter. As it got closer, I'd say that might be a good guess, but Very strange. I don't know. I don't know much about astral projecting. I know it's a fascinating thing. It's something that I think I would like to understand better, but I don't have time to work on it, or I don't make the time, whatever the case is. But I mean, I'm just so busy. I just don't remember ever when I'm relaxing to give it a shot. But I don't know. I think that we might astral project naturally as we sleep a lot of times, and perhaps our lucid dreams are some form of projection to another place, to another space time kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe an area between. I don't know. It's very strange, but I think it's a fascinating phenomenon. I know some people have had really amazing experiences. Some people are perceived as ghosts as they astrally project. Some people are able to see what's going on in places they aren't, and then report back on it. It's almost like what's that? Remote viewing. It's almost like remote viewing, and I think that that's the same thing. I think that astrally projecting is part of remote viewing, obviously, but they don't call it astrally projecting. But anyway, it's a cool phenomenon. It'd be great to have that figured out, but again, I think you have to be really ready to devote a lot of time and energy to it in order to make it work. I don't think I've ever experienced it, so very cool, though. Let's get to the next one, and this one is California. Paranormal Portal is on. Yep, we're on, Taco. It's almost Taco Tuesday again, too, which is always a great day. All right, so let's continue here. Let me check this. Okay. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the phone lines are open. If you want to call in and talk to me about something you've experienced, I'd love to hear it. This story is coming out of California. It's pretty short. It has to do with a haunted life. So a lifetime of experiences. From as far back as I can remember, I've seen ghosts, not just once, but I've seen them lots of times. And it doesn't matter where or what time of the day it is. I always see them, even at school. I remember seeing this girl who just appeared in midair. She was staring at me and smiling. I didn't get scared, but I was paralyzed. And a couple of days later, whilst I was sleeping, I suddenly opened my eyes to see someone in white laughing at me. I just couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed. And when I finally managed to move, this white thing just disappeared. Well, I started screaming. Although I'm getting used to seeing these ghosts, I'm starting to get scared. Not only do I see ghosts, but I've seen dwarves too. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. They watch me sleep. I've come to the conclusion one night I was woken by one standing near my feet staring at me. As soon as I saw it, it ran off really fast, and the door closed by itself right after him. Well, this didn't scare me. I just went back to sleep. I've had many more ghost experiences, but I just want to know if they want to tell me something, or if they want me to do something, or to do something to me, or if they just wander around. Sometimes I can't sleep because I can sense them, and I get scared. I feel like they follow me everywhere, and I just want to know why. That's a great question, and it's hard to know. I mean, it would. There's no one size fits all with any of this stuff. I mean, it could be any number of reasons. If you're dealing with an attachment or a haunting or something following you, you may remind this spirit of someone in their lives, of someone they loved or someone they were attached to. You may remind them of a child they had, or some relative, or whatever. It's hard to know. It could be your home. They're attached to the home for some reason. Maybe they lived there. Maybe they just wandered in there, but it reminds them of their home. It's hard to say. I don't think anybody can just go, well, this is what they want. Now, the dwarves thing I think is really interesting. And of course, I really, really do believe there are these diminutive beings around us. I really do believe they're multidimensional, though. I don't think they're manifest completely in our world, but I think they can go back and forth. There's a lot of history in cultures around the world of these small beings that seem to exist around us and have interacted with our ancestors. In fact, our ancestors had a much better grasp on this kind of stuff than we do. But to discard those ancient stories, I think, is a mistake, because we may not quite understand what they are, and they may not be what our folklore says they are. But the point is that there was knowledge of these things in our worlds at one time, and now it's relegated to folklore and a bunch of silly legends in a lot of cases, or children's tales. And I don't think that's that's the truth of what they are. I think that they are potentially they're some, I don't know. I guess I kind of think that they're somehow aligned to the natural world. Maybe they're utilitarian. Maybe they're almost like elementals themselves, but they're not. I don't know exactly what they are, but they seem to have a purpose in our world and around our world. But it's hard to know. But I just think those old wisdoms are amazing, and I think there's a lot of truth to them. And to discard them, I think, is a real mistake. And interestingly enough, we're learning a lot from these old wisdoms now, as our sciences are advanced enough that we can find the value in those old folk remedies, and we can find out why they worked. Whereas a lot of people would have discarded them in the past. Now we're starting to understand that they do work and why they work. And of course, which means that some company's going to try to make a chemical version of it that's going to have a football field of side effects. But, there is wisdom in the ancient world, and to discard it, I think, is a huge mistake. Wouldn't it be something if this current illness that's making the rounds, I'm not going to say it because YouTube's attacking everybody that uses the words, but if there was just some herbal remedy that had been used in an ancient past that is, just needs to resurface again, some kind of herbal blend that people can use and probably grows right in your yard, and it would heal everybody. But we just don't know about those things anymore, so we're at this disadvantage of having to relearn our past. But I guess it wouldn't surprise me, because nature does seem to supply everything we need. We just don't remember how to find everything nature supplies anymore. So thank God to those people who are researching and looking into those things to help us rediscover those ancient truths. So elderberry tincture. Yeah, something like that. Exactly. That would be exactly right. Something very powerful and ancient. But, I think this, a lot of people are thinking this is brand new. If it's not something that was manufactured, then it's probably not brand new. It's just resurfaced for some reason. And if it is a natural thing, then for whatever reason, it's making a resurgence. Who knows why? But it seems to be, and there probably is a folk remedy for it from way back when. It's just going to take people to look back in those distant pasts and find things that used to work for this kind of stuff. So that's just my 2 cents, but nature does seem to provide, though. That's been, I really strongly believe that. But time will tell. Time will tell. Let's go to the next one, and this one is coming from Maine, and it has to do with a miscellaneous. It has to do with an imaginary friend, and sometimes these stories are just incredible. And this one's a little longer, so this is going to take a little bit, but I hope you're ready to be entertained, because I'm going to read it to you. This isn't something that I have a lot of specific details about. I didn't even remember this until recently. I was reading someone else's submission where a remark was made about me being sensitive to the spirit in our house, while my roommate was not, and thought this might be something like that, me being sensitive to a spirit. Well, I don't have a lot of details on this. Like I said, I didn't even remember it. My mom's the one who likes to tell the story. While I was growing up, I spent a great deal of time at my grandma's house. We lived on the outskirts of town, about 10 miles out of town. Not in the middle of nowhere. Houses were about 100 and 200 yards apart. But we didn't have sidewalks or streetlights. My Gram's house was on the main road, set on the inside bend of a curve of the road. And on the outside of the curve was a little side road, the Kirkland Road. and it ran about 5 miles of paved road and then 15 of dirt and 5 more of paved, which led you into town. There were houses on either side of the road on the paved areas. On the end of the Kirkland Road that we lived on, there's a small cemetery about a half mile from the main road, and there are probably 60 or 70 graves in that cemetery. It mostly has graves from about the 1830s to 1900, with about 10 from the early 1900s before 1920. And then about another 5 or 10 from the last 15 years of people who grew up in that area and had lived their entire lives there and so chose to be buried in that cemetery. Like I said, when I was younger, I spent a great deal of time at my Gram's house, and I was allowed to ride my bicycle down the Kirkland Road by myself as far as the cemetery. You could see straight down this road that far if you looked out of my grandmother's window. I've always been fascinated by old gravestones, and as a child I would spend hours in the graveyard looking over the stones, and I had them memorized, where they were, who the families were, how old they were, when they died, etc. And I would sit on this old stump in the middle of the graveyard and just read or make up stories for hours. Okay, now the one thing that creeped me out was about 2 weeks ago when it came to mind. I was thinking about going to put flowers on my papa's stone. He's buried in the cemetery. When one of my friends mentioned something about imaginary friends we had as a child. This made me think of how my mom told me once that she always found my imaginary friends a bit odd. She said his name was Todd, and when I was little I played with him only when I was at my Gram's house. The part that weirded her out, though, was that when I used to tell her that Tom lived down the back road, my cousins and I always called the Kirkland Road the back road when we were younger. At first she thought that this was cute, and that since I have family that lived on that road, 3 aunts and a cousin, she assumed that Tom lived with one of them. She told me that one day I was about 8 years old. I came back from Gram's and was chattering on about how I played with Tom and had a great time. Always wanted to indulge my imagination. She would ask me questions about him, like, well, what did you do? Did you have fun? How long did you play? Well, this day she happened to ask me where he lived. And I answered her that he lived in the cemetery, and she asked me, did I mean that we played at the cemetery that day? And I replied, no. We always play at the cemetery, but that's because that's where he lived. So basically, as a child, I was drawn to the cemetery and loved to play there, and I had an imaginary friend named Tom who lived in the cemetery. Mom says I stopped playing with and talking about Tom when I was about 10 or 11. And as an adult, I don't mind this cemetery, but I'm borderline terrified of any other cemetery, even during the day. Like I said, I don't remember a lot about playing with Tom. I do remember he was a child. I remember that he had curly brown hair, white skin, wore jeans, and had a blue button-up shirt. I haven't been to the cemetery in years, and I no longer remember all the names on the gravestones, so I don't know if there is a Tom buried there, but I do plan on checking in the spring, though, when the snow is gone, just to see. I don't know if that was a ghost or not, but it certainly creeped my mom out. Your thoughts and opinions are welcome and appreciated. Well, it would be one of any number of kids that we've discussed on this show that had imaginary friends that weren't so imaginary, you know. Kids are sensitive. They pick this stuff up. They see the things that we as adults struggle very hard with, if we can see it at all. They are wide open little beacons of light. You know what my little minion did? Oh my God, I got a prankster on my hands, ladies and gentlemen. I have a 4-year-old child, and I was out of the studio for a while today, and I came in and I sat down and I grabbed my mouse and I'm wiggling around. It's like, it's all weird and it's got like sticky, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I don't usually like. I don't remember eating anything sticky, first of all, but I'm always careful when I, eat around the desk. So my mouse is all sticky, and I pick it up, and underneath there's this smear of all kinds of sticky stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I call the minion, and I'm like, what did you do in here? He said, "Oh, that's glue." He thought it'd be hilarious to glue my mouse to my desk, ladies and gentlemen. This is a 4-year-old child. And I'm like, where the hell did he pick up something like that? He's doing this stuff all around the house lately. He's doing these little pranks. He thinks the pranks are awesome. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, what kind of a teenager is this child going to be? It's going to be like, oh, I couldn't believe it. He was trying to glue my mouse down. I posted about it on Facebook, but the only good thing is that he used a glue stick, and he didn't have super glue, thank God, because his fingers would already probably been sealed shut anyway. But my mouse wouldn't have been leaving my mouse pad anytime soon. I was like, what the hell? How does this 4-year-old know this stuff? It's like, oh. I'm pretty impressed because I think it's a sign of intelligence, but I wish his intelligence was aimed somewhere else rather than how to prank Dad. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, that's current events in the Portal house. So I don't know what's next, but I know the studio door is going to get shut a hell of a lot more. All right, so let's go to the next one. And this one's coming out of Minnesota. My old stomping grounds. Oh, jeez. I don't know how I get some of these ads. It's very strange. All right. This is Minnesota. It has to do with miscellaneous. I was living in Minnesota at the time, and I was out and about in the world, minding my own business, harmlessly walking down the sidewalk of my apartment complex. Some shaggy-looking dude basically ran me down to talk to me. He wouldn't shut up, so I listened to the creep as he said he was some head honcho at a paper plant. And well, to make a long story short, I let him ramble and things got strange. This dude, I'll call him Red, he was different among people in general. And one night I was at his house and he went to the neighbors to get cigarettes. And I was there with the baby who was asleep in her playpen. I thought I heard keys jingling outside the door as he was coming in, and further yet, I watched a figure, which I thought was him, enter the apartment and go into the bedroom from the hallway door. I wondered why Red didn't say anything as he silently creeped into the bedroom. Puzzled, I got up and walked into the dark bedroom and flipped on the light. But no one was there. And as I turned around, the keys again jingled, and the door, and he walked in. I stood there speechless, and he said to me, "It looks like you've just seen a ghost." I responded with, "You just came in here and I saw and heard you. How did you get back on that side of the door?" He looked baffled and didn't say another word until later on, me still shook up, confessed that he thought he was haunted and possessed by some evil spirits that wouldn't leave him alone. These so-called spirits, according to him, were evil and would stop at nothing to make his life hell. To me, it was a story just that he imagined. No one in their right mind would believe such a tale, but he swore that he had a problem, and I kind of got scared because this affected me and where I lived and didn't want to be involved with a demon worshiper. I called my mom and talked to the management about it, and they advised me to get away from such a character, and there's more, sadly. This guy went as far as robbing the church of a Bible while I had a talk with the priest about such a phenomena, and he looked at us as if we were crazy. Somehow I had trouble getting away from this guy because he kept bringing up things that haunted him, which related to me in another story of my life where I have yet to post. So this has become quite complicated. It went as far one day as I wanted to get away from him that I planned to drive to my family in Wisconsin, but he ended up following me and invited himself in. Oh my God, that's way creepy. My mom hated his visit, which I didn't even intend on in the first place, and she claims he was flipping her off the entire time he talked, and his eyes kept rolling back in his head. It was very creepy. That's really twisted. Well, this guy left a huge mark on my family for after his unwanted visit, things were not well at my family's house. Strange incidents started occurring. My mom said the week after Red left that she kept hearing voices that were not familiar on the farm. Then a person she worked for lost lost car oil all over in a parking lot, but it made its venture home before dying. And that was a case that she was baffled by for a long time. But the freakiest thing she told me was that she saw a very huge man in her home that didn't belong there with a grimacing growl who walked up to her really fast and disappeared right before he reached her. She demanded for me to go get her priest and get a blessing to rid the house of this evil boy. But before I made it there, the worst happened to me. Red had a habit of keeping people up with his shenanigans, so no one really got much sleep. This incident made me wonder if my lack of sleep made it happen, but it wasn't because it was too real. When it occurred, I was wide awake from the scare. I just laid down on his bed after an exhausting night of trying to end our ties with each other. It was nearing morning, and sleep was much needed, and nothing was going anywhere. He was out of the living room in his place, meditating, as he called it. I thought he was dozing off when all of a sudden I felt hands crawling up my legs as if it were feeling me, and I looked expecting him to be there, and nothing was there yet. I still felt the hands, not wanting them to inch any further. I screamed and kicked and shot right up in bed as if something were trying to kill me. He then ran into the room yelling, "What's wrong?" And I told him what had just happened. He couldn't make anything of it and decided to lay down with me, as we were both so freaking tired. I was restless yet overexhausted, so I didn't refuse. No more than we lay down, and something massive kicked his side of the bed. The whole mattress shook. We both jumped up and said, "What was that?" He freaked out, not knowing that I wasn't hallucinating my occurrence just moments earlier, ran to the neighbors for support. He ditched her. What a keeper. All I remember from that point forward was the neighbor guy was trying to console me and kicked Red out. He said I was protected in white light and whatever Red was into wouldn't affect me, and I was safe in his apartment. I think I fell asleep, yet still half awake from the disbelievement and wonder what exactly I had gotten myself into being around this character. I did take my mom's advice and talk to her priest, which did a blessing on me that woke me up finally. I looked back at this experience and wondered how I got out of it to linger around as long as I did. Other things went on as well, but I figured they were works of a bored imaginations that like to mess around with things unconstructive. Well, I wasn't sure I was going to share this story, but if it saves anyone in any way, then it was worth it. If you're involved with someone who's into things that they're not right, and you know it, I advise you to get help. Thanks for reading my story. Yeah, that's creepy. There's some people that are just way too deep into stuff that they can't understand. And I don't know. I think everybody has had an experience somewhere with someone that didn't feel right. I think we pick up on these things like on a real intuitive level. It's just like, I don't know, sometimes you'll meet someone and it just feels like you just want to get away. You just want to get back. There's something about them that is kind of sideways. And you got to listen to those intuitions. You really do. Those old gut feelings are usually really pretty accurate. I can't say they always are, but, I know for me more times than not, my, following my instinct has served me real well. And so I'm not likely to not listen. So whenever I get those vibes, I just step back and just get away. And a lot of times it's nothing really diabolical. It's just people that are damaged. I get those feelings and it's like, I just can't do this. I can't do this. So I back away most often from those kind of people because, you just learn that if a person can't help themselves, you sure as hell can't help them. And so all you can do is just try to create a space and be supportive from a distance, I guess, because people have to get through their stuff. But sometimes it is diabolical. I've met some diabolical people in my life, and there's just, I don't know, it's almost a genetic imperative to get away from them. It's hard to understand if you haven't experienced it, but if you've been in the presence of what I would define as evil, you know it. It just goes right through you, and you feel like you're being soaked in oil or something, and you just want to get away and get clean somehow. Because you stick around a person that long, and they'll stain your soul. And I mean, that's that's a figure of speech, but I almost mean it sincerely. Like people, really, really twisted people leave a mark on you in a deep way. So, just be careful. You don't know what's wrong with some people, but it's best to just walk away if you can. And if you can't, find help. Find help from people that will help you walk away. But there's a lot of twisted people in this world. There's a lot of wonderful people in this world too, don't get me wrong, but there is darkness out there, so be careful. All right, next one is from Oregon. That's in our neck of the woods around here. I'm in the north of Idaho. Oh my God, this one's long. Yeah, this will probably be the last one tonight. It's quite a long story, but I'm going to read it for you. This will probably be all of 15 minutes. Hey there, this is my second story. I finally decided to stop being lazy and start writing because I'm bored and I don't feel like doing my homework. This story's from 2009, so it's not a current event story. But anyway, first I'll go back to the last year. It was around January. My best friend Brittany and I were, and are still, very interested in the paranormal and wanted to maybe contact the dead. I was thinking of buying a Ouija board, but before I did, Brittany made one of her own and came over so we could use it. Let me just say this quick, and it's something I've shared on the show before, but a lot of people think that, you're best off to buy one. But if you want an effective Ouija board, make one. Because in any kind of ritualistic practices, whenever you use something, you have to attune it to you first. Otherwise, it just won't be very effective. And certainly, buying a Ouija board is not attuned to anybody. It's just a piece of printed material. But when you make a Ouija board, you are putting your intention into it. And that is, by essence of creating it, you are attuning it to your energy. And so it's probably going to be pretty effective. Don't fall into that idea that if it's a homemade one, it's just not probably going to work. If it's a homemade one, you've got a better chance of it working than any store-bought one. So, it says, I know now that Ouija boards are bad things, but back then we weren't really entirely aware of the danger we could have been putting ourselves into. Luckily, nothing actually happened. All right, so we used my bedroom. I put down a blanket and Brittany formed a large circle of salt on it so we could be protected. While we were getting ready, I was having a minor panic attack because I realized this whole thing could cause trouble, not to mention I was really nervous about actually finding out if there was a ghost present. It was slightly amusing, really. I was trying to talk, but the anxiety made me sound like I just got back from running around the neighborhood in my out-of-shape state. See, I get pretty scared pretty easily. Anyway, we get everything done and seated ourselves with the board. Me calming down a bit, but shaking. So was Brittany. We tried asking questions, and of course it was, is anyone present with us? And yada yada, but nothing happened. At one point, the planchette we were using seemed to start moving a bit, but it was probably just nerves, and I know Brittany would never mess around, unlike Tiffany, who I have no idea who that is, must have been in the first story. Anyway, it was a little different when I tried summoning my mother. She had died nearly 6 years ago when I was 10. My dad found her in the house, but we don't know when exactly she died. Dad guessed it was on Memorial Day, so I kind of came to hate that holiday. I was really close to Mom, but things got between us. She was very paranoid, and I think I'd do some things to deliberately harm her. I also hurt her feelings on more than one occasion. I kind of have a cruel side that most of anyone I've known has had to endure. From her side of the family, there's a lot of mental issues. She suffered from depression, paranoia, and anxiety. I guess you can say I've inherited those from her. Brittany told me once that people who have a lot of negative energy actually attract the paranormal. She'd know, too. When Mom died, it killed me. It still hurts. I normally get confused and wonder out loud, Mom, are you there? Are you okay? Are you watching over me? Do you still love me? Well, she didn't kill herself, but she died trying to escape. I still get very disappointed and resentful at the thought, and frightened I could end up the same way. Sorry, that was a bit rantish. I should also add that I knew Mom was going to die. Throughout my years as a child, I had some dreams, not to mention I had this increasing sense of dread when it came to her. Of course, when Dad told me he needed to tell me something, I basically said it before him and I started bawling. I'm not really psychic, though. Anyway, so I tried summoning Mom. There was nothing. Well, I was discouraged, but then Brittany shushed me, and I looked at her confused but remained silent. See, I have hearing problems, but her hearing is fine. Okay, she has problems with one of her ears, but yeah. She told me, I hear something coming from your entertainment center. I was slightly alarmed, but got up with her anyway to investigate. We went over to the center with some salt. Unfortunately, we couldn't see anything. Kind of my fault, actually. The top of the entertainment center is a mess. Soon enough, though, Brittany pointed the location of the faint noise and pulled out a clock. I was shocked. It couldn't be the thing making the noise. That's the clock my mom owned. It stopped working years ago. The large hand, or was it the small, was stuck, but it was twitching and going tick, tick, tick. Brittany pulled out the battery, which is odd because the clock never worked even with a battery. And the battery should have been dead after all these years, and it stopped. But we just looked at each other. I'm thinking logically, and who knows, the battery might have had to come back to life or something. Funny how it happened at the convenient time, though. Not sure if I'll ever know. I think my mom sent several signs to me. Could have been that clock, too, to tell me that she was with us. I think if she had moved the planchette, I would have flipped. I think I'll explain one dream about her I got. I'll try to make it short. Sometime after my mom died, I dreamt I was outside my elementary school, the one nearby the house that my mom lived in. I was with Dad, and for some reason, or some other people, friends, I think, in this thing. It was odd. It was one of those plant buildings you see sometimes, the see-through things that enclose the plants people are growing or whatever, like a greenhouse, I guess. You can grow meth in there too. What? You don't grow meth. Which is funny because that's related to Mom's death, even though I didn't know about it at that time. Actually, I think this person's a little confused. Meth is not grown. But anyway, it didn't feel right because Mom wasn't there. I can't remember if I felt lonely or heartbroken or whatever, or if I was crying in my sleep. But either way, I looked over, and there she was, walking down the pathway towards the track, as if heading home. She turned her head towards me and smiled, placing a finger on her lips as if saying, "Shh, don't tell anyone." But it's okay, see? Everything's going to be okay. When people get signs like this, they seem to become happy and content and fine, but even if it was a sign from her, I still don't feel okay. I'm not strong and I'm not happy. And I still have doubts that this was a sign. Even so, I never have the energy to be completely okay or strong and hardworking, and I'm sorry if I disappointed her. That's the only dream I'll mention. Well, onward. We'll fast forward a bit to a few months later to spring break. My brother was over. This was fun. Well, anyway, it was during the day, and I was on my computer. My brother Marky had left the door open, much to my annoyance, but he was coming back, so I didn't bother getting up to close the door. I randomly glanced over. Wow, gee, every time I randomly look over, I seem to see stuff. And saw my dad walk into his room. But for some reason, I felt a little odd, and I thought I saw him. Anyway, it looked like him, but he didn't look at me, so I couldn't see his face, and I kept staring, wondering what he was doing. He doesn't normally go into his room. Okay, well, I often see him in there getting some clothes in the morning, or if he's getting something he left in there, which includes his water cup half the time, I usually get it for him. Other than that, he's usually just there to sleep at night. Sometimes naps during the day too, but so, yeah, I just watched him, waiting for him to come out. Annoyingly, Mark came in after a minute and shut the door. I promptly asked him, "What's Dad doing in his room?" He gave me a confused stare, as though thinking, what is she talking about? I haven't seen him. but got back from my bunk bed and went to look. When he opened my door, I noticed that Dad's bedroom door was closed. Dad didn't do that very often. Marky looked in the room and came back, giving me another odd glance and saying, he's still in the bathroom. Well, I just saw him go in there, I said. Marky replied, no, he's in the bathroom when I passed by. I didn't really say anything after that. He's quick to brush off things because he doesn't believe in the paranormal, or so he claims. I think he mostly does, just to get to me and to make me feel stupid. Around that time, I'd looked through a box of pictures Mom had kept and given to me. Dad's album was in there too, and I eventually found a picture of Dad, the grandparent I never got to meet or even have the privilege to know what he looks like since he died of a heart attack when my father was 5. I was pleasantly stunned to see that he had looked almost exactly like my father does. What if that was him I saw going into my dad's room without bothering to spare me a glance? Dad usually likes to peek into my room or when he's around. Or maybe I had looked away just for a second and that he had walked out and gone into the bathroom. Or, wow, a bunch of questions I've got. Here's another last year experience. It was maybe sometimes before the whole, oh my God, granddaddy thing. I was skipping school. I know, not good, but I do that sometimes. And Dad had left, letting me stay there, and I was going to go back to sleep. Well, actually, I was in one of my randomly upset moods. You're all going to think I'm wacko for this, but I tend to talk to the air when my dad and Marky aren't there. I'll just talk about stuff, and half the time I rant and sometimes cry, as though I have a loyal pal that's listening, and maybe I do. So the latter was what I was doing. I began talking about things I'm not sure I can remember. Typically, though, I know it had depression involved because sometimes I just freak out, saddened and scared of what the future looks like to me. I started crying a bit, and when I calmed down and regained my composure, I cautiously leaned over my bed, which I was sitting on, and glanced at the bottom of my door. Sheesh, why do I always have to look just to find something? You know how there's a crack under every door. You'll see, like sunlight, streaming through from another open room or something, or shadows or whatever. Well, that's where I looked. What I saw was darkness. A shadow, I thought. Guess my dad's door is closed. Dad's room is opposite mine, and there a shadow gradually moved away, as though there was a person who was standing there and just walked away. First thing I thought was, oh my God, don't tell me Dad's here. I leaped out of bed in fear and glanced out my window. Through the bushes I have standing there, and I didn't see Dad's tow truck. Still, I thought maybe he was there, even though I hadn't heard the front door open or close. Gathering my courage, I sort of threw my door open and stared down the hallway. Our pit bull, Stretch, was staring back at me kind of calmly from where she was lying on the couch. I went into the living room and called, Dad, are you still here? I looked out the front window. I looked in the kitchen and bathroom, but there was no sign of him. It can't have been Stretch outside my door. She tends to avoid being around me when I get upset, not to mention it definitely wasn't her shadow. So, who knows? I guess I have a loyal pal who listens after all. Maybe. God, the story's getting too long. Yeah, it sure is. I only have a few more parts, though, so bear with me, and I'll just get lazy for like a month before I put another story up. Excuse me. All right, so you must think I'm weird enough for talking to the air. Well, guess what? I talked while I was in the shower at one point. Yet again, this was last year. I was just in the shower, and I began speaking, saying things like, you know, you can come to me whenever you want, whoever you are. I want to help. Just don't ever scare me in the dark again. Or when I have food in my hands, it'll end up all over the place. Well, you're all probably thinking, freak. Oh, well, I had to explain that. So when I said that, I heard a creaking noise in the bathroom. We got a wireless caller, too. I'll have to get to the call after this. In the bathroom, my house is a bit odd, but I don't hear creaking noises in my house unless they're in my bedroom. When I'm in bed or when there's someone at the end of the hall going to either room, my room or my dad's, the floor tends to get a little creaky there. So, yeah, I was a little alarmed. Thinking that possibly it was that possible person who thought I meant it was okay for them to come to me while I was taking a shower, totally naked, I whispered, not now. There was another creaking sound, a tad closer. I hissed almost furiously, not now. and whatever it was stopped. Of course, I forgot to mention no one should ever come to me while I'm in the shower. Now they know. Unfortunately, it seems whatever it was might have just settled into that bathroom at night, because now, whenever I walk past, I get an uneasy feeling. I don't sense evil, but I get uneasy and fearful. Sometimes I close my eyes when I walk past. I keep the door shut at night now. Okay, I'm not writing anymore. I'll put up another story later. This one's about Tiffany's house. And I suppose I'll talk about other experiences as well. So, there you go. That's pretty cool. I don't know. It's a whole lot of different stories, but it really is kind of a haunted life kind of experience. I don't know. I think there probably is some sensitivity to this person who wrote this. They have some kind of ability, but that's assuming what they're writing is absolutely factual and true, and we have no way to know that, of course. But this is represented as being a true story, so I'm bringing it to you as a true story. But we do have a call. Let's get to this, and this is area code 701. You're on the air.
Hi, beautiful. I'm sorry to inconvenience you and cause a disruption, but may I humbly ask, what is your middle name?
Nunyer?
I'm sorry.
None your business? Thanks for asking. You can know me as Brent Thomas. Cheers.
Oh, I knew I have it somewhere.
No.
I have it somewhere, and actually, it's funny because I said to the chat earlier that if they could tell me your middle name, I would send them a Cannabis Resolution T-shirt. And so I went to my contacts to look at metaphorically, look at your middle name, and it's not in there. And I swore in our conversations before you've told me, and I thought I'd put it down somewhere. And so now...
There'll be no winners tonight.
Okay. Well, then if they can tell me my middle name, then I'll change it and give them a shirt. So thank you for everything you do.
All right, brother.
Happy today.
Happy today. Good to hear from you, brother. Take care of yourself.
And thank you for that shout out on Saturday night. I really appreciate that. You're so fantastic. Toodles.
Oh, yeah. No worries, brother. I'm glad it helped. And we'll talk to you soon. And that was Naysay. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for the Paranormal Portal. I think it's a wonderful journey. It's always wonderful to have you guys with me. So thank you much. And I'll be back tomorrow night for another round of the Night Terrors. So I hope you'll join me. Thank you so much, everyone. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody. And I'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, sweet dreams.